Hello everyone, this is modulistack, and I am back to doing some StarCraft 2 commentaries. I just did a series on the Berkeley Overmind, which is a bot that plays StarCraft 1 quite well. Definitely check that series out. There's some really interesting things going on in AI with StarCraft 1 right now. But I am back to my instructional Reddit series, and this is going to be a silver level Zerg versus Protoss, and I will be focusing on the Zerg, the blue Zerg Kuska. Let me take a quick drink of water. Now, the key idea in this game... Oh, and there's already some stuff to talk about in the opening, so I'm actually going to rewind in a second. But the key idea I'm going to focus on, and this is the key idea that you should really focus on in, I would say, bronze through platinum. This is the most important idea for improving beyond those ranks. And that is, what could my play be like? How strong could my play be if I was doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing now, but doing it better? Okay, so that's going to be the key idea. What would my play look like? How good would my play be if I was doing the same thing, but doing it better? Now, I'm going to point out a couple of little bumps in this opening of Kuska. We see... Okay, that 8th drone... No, okay, no, this is the one, This 9th drone is late, and as you see, it was very subtle, but Kuska was actually on 3 larvae for just a split second. Never, ever be on 3 larvae in the opening, because you are losing production that you cannot get back. When you're sitting on 3 larvae, no larva is being produced. Now, we're seeing an overlord going down on 10. When you make an overlord on 10, because you don't want to sit on 3 larvae, you need to do the extractor trick to produce an 11th drone. I don't see Kuska doing that, unfortunately, and so I think he is going to hit 3 larvae. Watch this. There we go. Bumps up to 3. That was a solid loss of production there. That was like half a drone or something like that, which is a big deal at this stage of the game. So definitely clean that up. Practicing playing well in the opening is good. It's very important because it's a good way to start the game, right? You need to make good decisions through the whole game, but if your decisions are good in the opening, you're going to get yourself in a state of mind to make good decisions. This pool went down on 13, kind of early. Not too early, so I'm not going to say much about it. But what's the idea of this pool? Well, usually it means you want a fast queen. Often in this matchup, you will see an expansion right after pool. Looks like we're not going to see that, though. We're seeing an extractor. So what this is looking like is some kind of one-base build out of Kuska. What I mean by that is Kuska does not look like he's planning on expanding soon. You should usually plan to expand soon as Zerg. I think this Overlord is a little late. But good, okay, immediately a Queen and a Roach Warren when this spawning pool finishes. So I like that. It's pretty tight. It's a pretty good timing. It feels right. But what's the plan? It looks a little bit like a Roach Rush. And now, I don't like Roach Rushes that much because Protoss can often defend against them pretty easily if they know what they're doing. So it's kind of a one-dimensional strategy. It's like, well, I hope he's not any good with force fields. Good, getting that inject out soon. And Roach being produced right away. So I like the fact that this Roach Warren is getting used immediately. It's not as good, obviously, if you rush for the Roach Warren and then don't make any roaches. Now, this scouting is not as good as I would like to see. Kuska should be sending this Overlord over to here instead of directly into the main base. So, well, that way you can see the structures a lot sooner and get a better idea what's going on. At this point, not a lot of information. Oh, look, how did that Zealot get there? So, I'm not seeing very good map coverage from Kuska, either with the Overlords or with units in general. These Zerglings might be wanting to fight for the Xel'Naga towers, or at least positioned here to see what Protoss is doing. But as we can see, Protoss has sent some Zealots over. Or was there a proxy gateway that I missed? Kind of weird. Anyway, so the point is that you should be aware of this stuff a lot sooner. Okay, weird engagement by Kuska. You should pull these roaches back. You don't want them to take too many hits from zealots. Zealots are, of course, not very good against roaches, but they still do a pretty good amount of damage. And gonna hold that attack off just fine. Now look at this. Gas is getting kind of high. What is this gas for? Zergling speed is going down. Zergling speed is always a great upgrade. But what about this second gas? It doesn't seem like it was really necessary to rush up for that second gas. It seems like all these drones now are mining gas. They could be mining minerals. This mineral count could be higher. This gas count could be lower. You can spend minerals on things, for example, an expansion. Zerg should be always planning to get their expansion as soon as possible. Staying on one base is okay, but in any case, I'm repeating myself a little bit. Point is, if you're going to stay on one base, make sure that you are following up on a really clear plan and you're following up on it well. Now, both of those are a little bit shaky right now. It's not exactly clear what time Kuska wanted to move out with these roaches. Right now he's supply blocked and can't make any more. Okay, a bunch more roaches coming out, but of course the attack force is already moving out, so not quite timed exactly right. The ideal timing is something like this. You want to spend all your money and then get a big army, and as soon as that army pushes out, you want to expand. That's a pretty good timing when you're doing one of these big attacks. A lot of players will not expand while they are attacking, and that sort of says to me that they're just hoping to win. And that is really not a very reliable strategy, to just say, okay, well, I'm going to make a lot of stuff, and I'm going to go try to kill him with it, and if it doesn't work, I'll make some more stuff and try to kill him with it again. That is not really the most clear plan. So I would like to see an expansion behind this aggression. Also, I'd like to see an overlord spotting for these roaches so they can pick off these pylons. By the way, quick lesson in scouting. What do you see at the Protoss ramp? You see a lot of zealots, right? 6 zealots, you already killed 3, 2 stalkers. That's a lot of zealots. And what don't you see? Sentries. There are no sentries at the Protoss ramp. What could this mean? More specifically, where is Protoss spending his gas? How much gas do you see here? 100 gas, right, from these 2 stalkers? Maybe he got warp gate. He did get warp gate, right? And that's 50 more gas, right? So 150 gas. Where is the rest of his gas? The point I'm trying to make here is that you can really figure out a lot about what your opponent is doing based on what you see, even if your scouting information is not perfect. And there, now we know. Void Ray. Of course, so we would have been able to see this large number of zealots and stalkers earlier if we had had just a Zergling around to poke up that ramp. And that is something you should always have. Always, always. Make sure you, excuse me, make sure you know when your opponent is going to push out. That is critical. And look, Kuska now at 650 minerals needs to be getting an expansion. Of course, now it's a little bit of panic mode, right? If you already had an expansion, that would be one thing. You could be producing more queens, and I actually would like to see a second queen now, as well as this Hydralisk Den. But this expansion is extremely vulnerable. The Void Ray can just go right up here and kill this immediately, and there's really nothing Kuska would be able to do about it. So it can be the case that when you expand later, it is safer because you have more units. But also, you can get into situations like this, where it's actually more dangerous to expand late than it is to expand early. So again, I would work on the execution here. I would expand while attacking, if my plan is to attack, right? Actually, my recommendation to you, Kuska, this is my recommendation to you. Don't make units in the early game, okay? It sounds crazy, right? Just expand. Just fast expand. Just get a hatchery first and then a pool. And then get drones. Get 2 Zerglings to scout. Send them to the front of your opponent's base. And if you don't see them move out, only make drones until you have, like, I don't know, 50 drones on 2 bases. Now, to good players, what I'm saying will sound insane, because the build I just described is easily killed by a lot of things from Protoss. But That's a much better baseline than what I'm seeing here. If your plan is to get a ton of drones out, then you can start thinking, oh, hold on a second. I'm going to pause while I finish my thought because there's something interesting going on here. If your plan is to get a ton of drones and you keep getting killed, then you can start having thoughts like, how can I protect my expansion while continuing to produce a lot of drones? Or how many drones can I get away with producing at this time before I need to make these units to defend against this? You can start having those thoughts as you lose games from being underdefended. But the whole point is that you have a motivation to make that adjustment. If you do this kind of play, where you make a bunch of units, and then you kind of attack, and then you kind of expand, and then some stuff happens, it's not clear what motivation you're going to have to make adjustments. This expansion should have been earlier, but there's nothing clear in this game that tells you that. That makes you feel viscerally, okay, I needed to get that expansion faster. It's a little hard to perceive that. So I just much prefer, if you're going to practice, I much prefer to see really economic focused openings. Because it just gives you a better sense of how the game progresses as players get their worker counts higher and higher. Now, Protoss has definitely overextended himself here. By the way, Kuska was taken completely by surprise by this attack, and that is why you always want a Zergling in front of your opponent's base. Always put a Zergling in front of your opponent's base so that you can see when they're coming to kill you. But going back to the